Who's that?
Oh, that's a beautiful voice.
Sounds very modern Westernish.
That was it. That's it.
Okay.
So good to me.
Great to have you back. Kevin is here. He's done it all. Actor, director, producer, musician, entrepreneur, singer. He's won Oscars, Emmys, Golden Globes. He's made highly successful movies. He's made some really good movies that maybe not have been as successful as the successful ones, but maybe have been better, but I don't want to get into all of that. Just this year, he had 2 movies come out, with the third one, Criminal, opening next year. Now he's got this thing that he's in for. And it is an unusual thing right here. It is called
The Explorers Guild. It is a fantasy adventure about a group of adventurers trying to find a mythical golden city. The Explorers Guild was definitely a team effort, and I've got to tell you, this book is beautiful. It is. It feels like you've gone into a dusty old library, right? And you've pulled it off the shelf.
Also with us, needs no introduction, John Baird.
John.
John Baird is here.
Thank you.
Where's my montage?
Where's my stuff?
Next time.
The reason you're here is 8 years ago, you had an idea. You had an idea. You're out in Hollywood, you're doing your work, trying to get things going, et cetera.
That's right.
And then you have this idea for this glorious return to a kind of sort of real, true but fiction idea. How did you get involved?
Well, he came to me 8 years ago and tried to explain this kind of cluttered story, and I didn't quite get it at first. I said, hey man, why don't you come up to the house? He did. A week later, we talked about it. I kind of wasn't certain about it then, but we dove into it and we began exploring the story. We created 22 minutes of animation. We then stopped after a couple of years of doing that, wrote a Western together, and then came back, and John said, I want to write the book of what we were doing on Explorers Guild. So this has been an 8-year journey, and the last 3.5 has been the writing of it.
Now, you, like many of your passion projects, this is one where you put your own money into it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
and that's how you get this done, right?
I know it doesn't want to be that way. It's not how you draw it, but it seems like it's been a pattern for me.
It is.
You know, and my problem is I can't fall out of love with what it is that I love. And when John started writing and we started to work together, it was just a really magical experience, a highlight for me.
All right. The essence of this book, for folks who are not understanding it, is what?
Well, it takes place in World War I, and there's a secret society of explorers covering the globe looking for this city you mentioned, this mythical city called Shambhala. And we learn that the war and really the fate of civilization are tied in with this city and its secrets. So it's critical that it be found, and that it be found by the right people. It's just important we prevent the wrong people from getting there. So it's all about, what is this city? Can it be found? Who will get there first? And really, how do we know who should find it and who should be kept away? I don't think that's entirely clear until near the end.
So the book is out now, and then of course everyone's
I don't want to say book. We have to explain when we say book.
because
It is a multimedia extravaganza in a book. Kevin, you chose to go several routes with it.
Yeah, well, it does set itself up for a lot of the different mediums. But you know, when we finally couldn't convince Hollywood at first, when they couldn't understand the story any better than I could at first, till we had to finally commit it to paper. You know, it was just something that was, you know, not going to really happen, and we had to. We decided that we had to make this, but we decided that it would be a book. So you don't, when you read this, you don't see the movie immediately. Mm-hmm. We said, let's make this a novel, because we're always looking back to our last century for the great novelists, right, for those things that we as kids we stayed under the covers with our flashlight. You know, these stories inspired us, and so we wanted to. We're well into the century. Who's writing those kind of books?
yes,
It's a book. It's a graphic book. It's an art book. It's a novel. I don't know how to describe it.
Well, I don't think a book like this has been made, and at least not in the last 70, 80 years.
nearly 800 pages.
Yeah.
And you were down in the nitty-gritty of writing it as well. This is not just something you put your name to.
No, I couldn't do that. But I would say the brains of the outfit are John and obviously Rick Ross. And
Yeah,
I think these are two guys that next century will be looking back on. Really beautiful writers. You know, what I do to the story is what I do to it.
Mm-hmm. You've always been an adventurer at heart. Here's something I didn't know about you. You did a canoe trip, recreating the trail of Lewis and Clark, the great explorers in America.
Yeah.
When did you do that?
Well, I did that when I was 19. I just, I had built 3 canoes, and they all looked like it. They were all homemade, and they all looked junky, but they all floated pretty good. But I've always most of the things I've done, I've wanted to do with other people, but if people won't go with me, I would always go myself. I worked on commercial fishing boats. I mean, when people talk about the deadliest catch and all that stuff. I did that when I was 19, 20.
And here's the other thing. When you graduated from high school, you were 5'2"?
No, I was 16 when I get your license, and that's when everybody likes to look at your picture, and especially girls. And after about the fourth one said, "You're only 5'2", I thought, "Give me that picture." I don't want to be cute anymore.
You wanted to be the guy, not the kid with the guy.
Yeah, 5'2". So it's like, you know.
What happened? What the growth
Well, I just
spurt?
I think my whole career, even my growth spurt, I'm just a kind of a late bloomer for everything. It just it doesn't always happen for me immediately. This book, The Explorers Guild, was something that we had to labor over. That, you know, John and Rick and myself and we weren't sure anybody was going to want it, and now we're, I think,
Yeah,
6
for a
days
long
in.
time, this was the 5'2" picked on high schooler.
This book was the 5'2",
For about 8
yes.
years,
Been
and now it
bullied.
finally comes out the full form.
When did you, in working with Kevin,
Say it again?
when working with Kevin, when did you get to the point where I'm working with Kevin Costner, or I'm working with Kevin, I don't like that?
Well, there was obviously if I ever stepped back and looked at it, you know, that I'm working with this guy, I don't think it would be very productive if I was just asking him for his autograph the whole time. I kind of had to screen that part of it out. And honestly,
Tone it down a bit,
yeah,
take
and
it
there's
down a
not-
notch.
With him, it's a very workmanlike experience. It's not a lot of beret wearing, not a lot of, you know, ego, and we're really just in there knocking out page after page, and it was very easy just to slip into it together.
And of course, it says volume 1 right up there. So
Oh,
when I
dear,
showed it
yeah.
to my
I
son
tried to tell
yesterday,
him that was a
Might
mistake.
have been
I
an
tried to tell
overreach
him
on our
that,
part.
that we're too far out over our skis with this thing.
Well, but let me bring something up here. You are the non-sequel guy.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
this industry, movie industry, you're the non-sequel guy. He's writing a book and he's already setting up sequels
Well, I want
to
to
the
lock
book.
him in. Once I know
Yeah.
when I'm onto a good thing.
Yeah, I'm
believe
just
me.
gonna put it all over.
You
Volume
know,
1,
8
there's gonna be
years,
more.
we have created so much material, and these characters, I think you're going to really enjoy them as you wade through. And we're going to go back and show their beginnings. There's a lot of rabbit holes that we're going to go down. I mean, we came in at probably 1,100 pages. We cut out 100 panels of art.
Yeah.
We cut out, you know, a lot of stuff. So
This, of course, is a great gift book.
I think it is. You got to get two. You
I
just
got
can't
two.
do the one
Yeah.
thing. But it is.
and it's also a lethal weapon if you drop it on someone's
Yeah,
foot. I
sure.
mean, there's
Yeah, that's why she shouldn't handle
Well,
it.
we're into our second printing. We're 7 days out, and that was a really nice thing for us because, you know, when you labor by yourself, you don't know if anybody's going to care, and nobody really does until it somehow matters to them. And everything about this book, from the cover that you're looking at, we kind of were excited for people to take this ride with us.
Yeah.
There's a character, Buchan. Buchan, how do you pronounce it?
Bucking, yeah.
Buck-
Is that named after the writer? Was that
Very good. Yeah, there's
okay,
a lot
John
of.
Buchan, okay.
It's not the real Romana Club, but there are
Yeah.
little things throughout, sort of sprinkled there.
Yeah, you
little
catch
nods
little
to
names
Kipling,
here.
and
Yeah, I see that,
that's right.
yeah.
Aha.
And who
First
would
time we
you-
got that
If
one.
it does
Okay.
become a movie, who would you play?
Ogden. You know, I'd like to
Which
play.
Ogden?
I'd like to play John.
Okay.
I'd like to play Renton, who's just this rascal.
Yeah.
But that was when I was 12.
I want to go back to the sequel thing. You've made a couple of movies that people just love. There's one that people particularly love called Tin Cup. Everybody smiles when they talk to you about that movie. Anybody else would have done Tin Cup too. Why haven't you done that?
Well, it just the script never came back. Ronnie Shelton, who wrote Bull Durham, and I mean, who would
Bull
want-
Durham 2.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And there was talk of it. It never quite happened. I hear it might be a musical. The movies I've have had these natural endings, but they've had characters you want to see
Right.
go on because you feel like when a character is drawn really well, you know they have a life after. You know what I mean?
Well, that's part of
And-
the experience.
Yeah, it really is. So I would have done them. I tell you, sequels must be great because you just back the truck in and
That's just
tell
money.
people how big a shovel you want.
Yeah. Of
course.
That's the amount of money.
And-
I haven't played it exactly
You've
right.
also had this really interesting career because it's like every couple of years there's something happens. Like, don't you forget Kevin Costner. You do something,
As if anyone could.
and it's suddenly the biggest hit in the world. do you have faith in that at this point?
Well, I believe in stuff bigger than just my personality. I believe in story. I just do. That thing that binds us together, you know, a movie, there's a moment in a movie that you never ever forget. There's something in a book where you want to just pass it on. I'm a big believer in how we exchange, and a lot of that is, I don't know anybody, it's almost a universal thing. When they hear a great song, even a great joke, a great book, the first thing they say the next day is, I read the best book last night. I heard the greatest song. I actually, maybe that's romantic, maybe it's too much poetry, but I absolutely fundamentally believe in that.
Yes.
And so, and what happens is, when you actually present something like that, I'm really in love with the work part of doing that. A lot of people like the red carpet. I'm not immune from it, but I like the work part.
And we have to wrap, but I've asked you this before. Do you sleep ever?
No, he's got 7 kids. How can
Yeah,
he
he's got 7 kids.
I know, and 3 of them are in the bed every morning. Of course I do. I've had it pretty good.
But you're astoundingly productive for what you do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a gift, I guess. It's almost genetic.
Yeah, I think I just have everything for me I wanted. When I got out of school, I loved recess. I loved it when that bell went off. And for me, the bell goes off, and I realize that I've been able to do the things I wanted to do. And I realize how lucky I am about that.
Well,
Amen to that.
great to see you always,
Thank you.
Kevin. Thank you for coming. And John,
Nice to meet
John,
you.
nice
pleasure
to
to meet you.
meet
John
you.
Baird.
Kevin and John will be at the Barnes & Noble at the Grove tonight, starting at 7. Then tomorrow night they'll be at the Moss Theater as part of the Live Talks LA. That begins at 8. And the Explorers Guild Volume 1 is out now.
That's
Volume
right,
1.
And remember, you go into the front room, but all the action's in the back room. Just read the book.